Let me ask you before I let you go about the latest in Ukraine. I haven't been paying attention to it too much over the last couple of weeks. I have read the headlines to some extent. I know that they are short. Apparently, maybe NATO is now short on weaponry because they gave it all to Ukraine or something like that. And I haven't. And I know the bombing has continued. Russian bombardment has continued, including in Kiev. What about the dynamics have changed?
So what's happened is that the Ukrainians have been winning, and they intelligently forced the Russians out of Kherson, out of Kharkiv, out of various other places, without having to launch any sort of incredibly costly offensive themselves. A guy that I know calls it fog eating snow, meaning that it's just this strategy of corroding Russian ability. Russia's army operates on aviation, on artillery, and on logistics. All those missiles we gave the Ukrainians, those HIMARS and everything, just designed to degrade that stuff, degrade that stuff, degrade that stuff. If you look at Kharkiv and you look at Kherson, it was not some big, huge tank battle that won those. It's that the Russians just got so exhausted. They said, we either leave or the Ukrainians are going to capture all our men. Right? It's a very, it's an interesting war because it's upending. We think in terms of violence of action and big maneuvers and all that sort of thing. This is different. This is like World War I if one side had a really decisive strategic tactical advantage, where there's trench warfare and the Ukrainians just keep on chewing up and chewing up and chewing up Russians, and to the point where the Russians eventually are like, we can't keep providing bullets and bread to these guys. We got to pull them back. I think. And we're also, by the way, this all happened. The Ukrainians did these two major offensives, pushed them right up to the winter wet season, which we're in the middle of now. So you can go online and look for Ukraine, and you'll find videos of tanks being dug out of 3 feet of mud.
Yeah,
guys. But the ground is about to start freezing again. And I would suspect that the Ukrainians really don't want the Russians to be able to settle in for the winter and reconstitute. So I think there's one more big offensive coming up sometime in the next 2 to 3 months that will attempt to split the Russian front in two. That would be my guess. And, the Ukrainians, everyone's running out of artillery because, again, the Western philosophy of fighting was enormously intense, enormous maneuver, have the war over in 3 months or 2 years at the most. This is more like a World War II war with like tons and tons of expenditure of ammunition and material and everything else. The Russians, so the Ukrainians are tight, but the Russians also can't keep it up either. And China's not going to bail them out. I'm not sure China could. And so I think we're in a phase that's going to seem quiet, but it's going to be a lot of Ukrainians continuing to corrode the Russian army. I think I told you last time we spoke, I'll be surprised if this war gets to the end of 2023.